Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin, and I'm very, very happy to say that our guest this morning is Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Information and Culture Minister. Thank you very much for coming on, Alhaji Lai.
Mr. Folarin, good morning.
Indeed, my pleasure. In fact, I'm particularly happy because something came up, I think it was 3 days ago or so on the program, and I took potluck and said, look, all things being equal, we'll invite the minister. He usually is very, very cooperative, and lo and behold, here you are. So thank you very, very much.
That's very kind of you.
Indeed. So many questions out there in the polity. Let's start with the biggest one, the nation waking up to the rude shock on Tuesday that the National Assembly was under siege, and nobody really knew what was going on. How could that be? Well, within a very short while, the Vice President had acted by firing the director, the DG of DSS. So that said to us, fine, this was not known to the presidency, otherwise that action wouldn't have happened. Are you able to, now the other question that leads from all of that is, how did that happen in the first place? And are we safe in this country? If a bunch of guys, which seems to be what has happened, could just think about it among themselves and take such an action.
I think there are a lot of conspiracy theories making the round. About what we can say now is that a full investigation is going on, and in the fullness of time, Nigerians would be informed of exactly what transpired. But I think the most important thing is that we have shown by the action of government that this administration is anchored on respect for rule of law and constitution. The swift action of the acting president, I think, confirms beyond any doubt that this government will not tolerate any, unconstitutional act. And I want to appeal to Nigerians that the government should not be judged by the infraction of one person or a group of people, but rather by the action the government took to rectify the situation. And I'm glad that the EU has commended the government for its prompt action on the matter. But like I said, investigations are ongoing, and in the fullness of time, Nigerians will be given the full details of that disgraceful incident.
All right, well, whereas I follow you, but could I just ask, how could this have happened given that intelligence is in existence? I mean, in other words, how could government not have known that this was going to happen? Because government usually is on top of everything, maybe a day before, maybe half a day before. It's very rare for something to catch government pants down, so to speak.
I think these are the facts that will actually emerge at the end of the investigation. And I think very soon, this investigation will be concluded.
Okay, Alhaji, I think I realize when we've come to the end of a particular road. So for the meantime, yes, that's as far as the road can go.
Absolutely.
For the meantime.
Yes.
But
yes,
you are promising that we will indeed be told what has happened, because there would appear to be more to it than meets the eye.
Well, honestly, Mr. Folarin, as a spokesperson for government, I cannot be found to be indulging in beer parlor rumors and conspiracies, and conspiracy theories. But I can assure you, investigations are going on, and it will be made public.
Okay. Now the other thing that was on Tuesday, so no doubt you must have been very, very, very busy. But it didn't stop you from traveling the next day to Uyo, and that was because there was another big event, a big defection from PDP to the ruling APC by the Senate minority leader. By all accounts, and seeing it on live TV, it was a mammoth event. How big a catch was he?
You see, Mr. Folarin, the fact that the matter of the situation on Tuesday had been contained by the swift action of the acting president, I think made it possible for all of us to not just go to Uyo. We even, held a Federal Executive Council meeting in the morning of Wednesday. So governance, went on smoothly. And so I left with the Secretary to Government on Wednesday afternoon after FEC to attend that mammoth rally. And I said, I'd never seen in a long time a rally, like that. And what that shows is that the APC is making serious inroads into the South-South. And that is why all these defections, when you look at it from, who is coming and who is going, you find out that the status quo is more or less, sustained. And if anything, I think we're on the plus side.
Everybody was welcoming Senator Akpabio to the APC. That was a top list event for APC. Everybody was there. The president was represented, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the creme de la creme of APC, showing how important it was. But 3 months ago, this particular gentleman was as vehemently opposed to the APC as any opposition politician would be. But on the day before all of you, he was saying that it was about selflessness. It was about bringing South-South into the center and all the kind of things that progressives usually say. Well, what we were hearing that day. And it would appear to me, Honorable Minister, that APC was lapping all of this up without any consideration of the fact that just 3 months ago, it was a totally different tune. What is the public to believe about our politicians? How seriously can they take them?
You see, up to 2 months ago, 3 months ago, even up to last week, was the minority leader and head of the Senate office, head of the PDP in Senate. But you see, at the end of the day, all politics is local. And he, being a 2-term governor in Akwa Ibom, a serving senator, must have considered the local imperatives or the politics of Akwa Ibom and felt that it was time to move. He probably, more than any other senators in the PDP, had seen that the right place to be was in the APC, because this is a government that has delivered on all its promises to revamp the economy, fight insecurity, and fight corruption. And when I got to Uyo and I saw the crowd and I felt the pulse of the people, it was not just a senator defecting. I think with Senator Akpabio coming to APC, I think PDP has lost Akwa Ibom already. So we're very confident that come 2019, an APC governor would win the election, would be in the government house in Uyo.
In terms of political negotiations, because these always go on, you don't even have to know much about politics to know that negotiations go on before things like this happen. Was it a very expensive one? Quote unquote, the word expensive is not about money, but you know what I mean, what I'm talking about. It's about what were the concessions, what would the distinguished senator be looking forward to in the APC? Because as you said, there are speculations all over the place. And I understand that you can't enter into any pepper soup joint speculations. But what was the lure for him?
I think if I had Senator Akpabio very well on Wednesday in Uyo, he said there were no preconditions to his coming. And that the notion that he was decamping so that the EFCC would drop charges against him and he would no longer be prosecuted is not true. That as a matter of fact, there's absolutely no investigation against him. Like I said, all politics is local. I'm sure if you have, observed over time, there's no love lost between Senator Akpabio and his protege.
Yeah, exactly.
In the States. I won't want to go into further details, but I think Senator Akpabio He's a veteran politician, and he definitely knows which party will better represent the interests of his people.
And he also said at that Wednesday event that it was about bringing Akwa Ibom bringing it to the center. It cannot, Akwa Ibom deserve better than to be on the fringes.
And that's exactly what I said, that he knows what is best for his people. He had led that state for 8 years. And I think whatever you have to say about him, even when we were in different political parties, you would see his footprint in Akwa Ibom. Small fact, in Ikot Epene, where we had the rally, there was I think 4 seasons, is this 4 seasons, this ultra modern hotel, which I think would do any world capital, proud, that was sitting there unutilized. And I think he has become a living legend in Akwa Ibom. So his defection is a very big blow to the PDP and did quite a big advantage to the APC.
We have seen on the political scene where this kind of crossing happens, but sometimes you have a three-way kind of a crossing. Actually, that's not a very accurate way to describe it, but I'll explain. You have somebody going from A to B and then from B to A back again. Are we safe? Does the system feel that we're safe this time? Because this has been seen, and usually when you get to a certain level, you think of men in politics as men of high integrity. But crossing from A to B and then crossing back from B to A, there is precedent. It has become a possibility in this land. And I have heard Senator Akpabio being referred to by APC faithfuls as that singular defection equal to whatever the number was of the losses in the National Assembly.
Well, like I said again, politics opposition is local at the end of the day. But clearly, Senator Akpabio's defection, like I say, is a very big blow to the PDP, not just in Akwa Ibom, but the entire South-South. Because when you look at the votes that come from Akwa Ibom, for the PDP, you find out that PDP has really lost. And today, with the coming on board of Senator Akpabio to APC, then we have a better inroad into the South-South zone of the country. Already, we have Edo in Akiti, so it will be much easier now to make foray, to make invasions, if I can use the word, into other parts of the South. But clearly, we believe that the coming on board of Akpabio will not just result in winning in Akwa Ibom. I think it's going to have some bandwagon effect in other southern, South-South states of the Federation.
You, Minister, were quite active in sort of resolving a situation, shall we say, in Kwara State. The Exco, by the time you were done with it, your visit to it and meetings, the Exco had been dissolved. In view of the big defection there too, talking about Senate President Bukola Saraki, that was seen as something of a deft move. What's your read now of the state of stability of Kwara by APC standards and calculations and needs?
I just came back from Kwara yesterday, where I met about 200 leaders from all over the state, from the north, from the central, and from the south. I'm talking about political leaders, some that date back to the UPN, MPN days, some who had retired from politics, some who had been frustrated out of politics, some who had given up. In fact, they told us openly that they formed the progressive movement platform with the hope that one day the situation will be favorable for them to come back to participate in politics, and that the exit of the Senate President from APC has given them that opportunity, and they're all coming back into APC. It was a very big, moment for us, APC in Kwara State yesterday, because we had people, we had people who had over 40 years experience in politics, who had come together to also join hands with the younger ones, and all have now come back to APC. So our chances in Kwara State in 2019 is as bright as ever.
You've become the sort of de facto leader of the party in Kwara State. Is that informal or formal?
Well, I think I am probably the most senior surviving member of the party in APC in the state today, and I think it's it's something that I didn't quite expect was going to happen. But as far back as a few months ago, I had that, feeling that something will give in Kwara State, and that the Saraki-led executive of the party would camp. And that was what informed my holding a prior Congress during the last Congress of the party. We had our own congresses at the ward, local government, and at the state level. And we are glad that we were prepared, so there was no vacuum when they eventually left. For us, it was a matter of time they were going to leave the party.
Some have referred to it as something of a deft stroke.
I think on the part of the national leadership of the party, it was a deft stroke, dissolving the state executive, because there's no way people who had left the party will continue, to hold key offices. By the time the executive was dissolved, the two of the three senators had left the party. All the members of the representative had left the party, and it was only a matter of time for the Senate President to leave. I think that resolution of the executive, which we actually asked for at my meeting with leaders in Kwara State on the previous Sunday, was what smoked out the Senate President from the party. And today, we have a healthier and more disciplined and a party, and we have a followership that is more faithful to us in Kwara State today.
What are you able to tell us, or how much are you able to tell us about the apprehension among APC faithfuls of, now that the Senate President has left the party, his seat, otherwise we have the situation that some have said is not totally unheard of a position in the Senate President, an opposition in the Deputy Senate President seat. So how does that make APC feel, and what can be done about it?
You see, let's go back to Kwara State first. Mm-hmm. What we have in Kwara State today is jubilation everywhere. It's like for the first time, the people of Kwara State are saying, look, we are taking our destiny in our hands, and that no longer again one person, determine the fate of people of Kwara. We have a situation today in Kwara, whether it's north, center, or the south, where people are saying, we're all stakeholders, we are going to work with President Buhari, and we're going to ensure that the APC will defeat the PDP. And what is instructive is that over 90% of not just the leadership, but of the followership of the PDP left as soon as Senator Saraki joined PDP. And the original legacy members of the APC did not go with him, because people have forgotten that Dr. Saraki's PDP and his followership and his followers were never members of the original merger that led to the APC. Three political parties, the defunct AMPP, the defunct ACN, defunct CPC, and a faction of ABGA and a faction of DPP actually were the parties that merged and became APC. It was much later, in 2014, that 5 governors of the PDP defected from their parties to join, APC. So they were not legacy members of APC. In other words, they did not form part of those parties that merged and became APC. So what we have today in Kwara that APC has lost are the members of PDP that came to join APC. Now, but what we have but of course, as soon as they came back, those who remained in PDP, because he went to APC, have now left PDP to come back to APC. So in terms of numbers, you can see
it almost balanced itself out.
I honestly, on paper, it might look balanced, but in reality, I can assure you that APC has an upper hand. And go to Kwara City today and talk to anybody, taxi driver, talk to the plantain seller. Everybody feels an eye of excitement that now we have a chance.
So you don't buy the idea that the Sarakis as a dynasty have Kwara in a stranglehold?
I think honestly, I think it's a myth, and I think come 2019 election, there will be a demystification of that notion.
Okay.
Yes. I'll be careful to use the word dynasty.
Okay.
I would rather deal with the situation at hand. I'm talking about Dr. Bukola Saraki right now. And I believe that it's the impression that he is Kwara. I think we are going to really, we are going to unbundle that.
Okay.
Now, we have an unusual situation right now in the National Assembly. But you see, we had the seed of this betrayal sown the day Dr. Bukola Saraki emerged as Senate President. Because the practice normally in any democracy, that it's that party that has the majority in the House that will produce the principal officers. And they will only of the party of the National Assembly, and they only do that in consultation and with the full consent of the party. But what we had was Dr. Bukola Saraki with his band of, dissenters, defying the party hierarchy and making a pact with the opposition and offering the opposition a deal they could not refuse. When they offered the PDP the position of Deputy Senate President, they could not refuse it. In addition to some quote and unquote juicy, chairmanship of some, committees in the Senate. So from the beginning, we had a Senate President who was there in spite of the party. But the Senate President who was there and who had defiled the entire National Assembly by doing the unthinkable, by making a pact with the opposition. So what he did was that by getting a PDP to be the Senate President, he had procured an insurance for himself. Oh, that in the event that, I'm impeached, then the opposition, the PDP will become Senate President. But in actual fact, he had behaved worse than if he himself had been a PDP, member. Because under him, the government, the executive arm of government suffered, terribly.
How can that situation now be resolved? Because he still is there
until
he can be legally addressed.
The executive would not interfere in how the National Assembly, chooses or, deposes their leaders. But I think now we have a sizable majority in the National Assembly.
But not enough to impeach him.
And I hope that with the by-elections coming up, our numbers will increase.
Okay.
With the Senate, with Akpabio coming over, our number has also increased. But I think what the law says is that it is 2/3 of those who are in the House on the day of the election. When we are going to,
is it the day or the actual register?
no, I think it's
On the day?
On the day of the election, yes. Yes, that, on the day of the election. Because, I mean, if, for instance, you are going to have an election and there are vacancies, either due to death or whatever, or some members cannot attend due to, some other engagements, you cannot insist on the 109. But I think the legal opinion, I think they've all concluded that it's actually 2/3 of those who are present.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the way that we have to wait and see.
Yeah,
how
well,
that will go.
but I think morally, I think Senate President has no justifications to stay one moment in the National Assembly as Senate President. Morally. Yes, we're talking about law, and the law is clear that he can only be impeached by 2/3 majority of those who are present at the day of the proceeding. But I think
if that were to happen, just not knowing now, but since we're stating the way the law is, how does that affect the Deputy Senate President? I mean, the same process?
I think I would rather say that we'll leave it to National Assembly. Like I said, the executive really has no interest,
no business,
and we're not going to interfere. But because you asked,
yes,
I'm just saying what the law says,
okay,
what the Constitution says.
Okay. I want to go on to be beyond all of these intrigues. I almost used the word shenanigans, but I said go back to intrigues going on. That's really, at the end of the day, not it. The electorate, the population, they're watching all of this. Is an interesting side comment, I would think, to the main question of deliverables. What indeed has been done about what the ruling party promised as it was coming along? That, I imagine, is going to focus largely when it comes to the campaigns, next year. Yeah. Since I don't want to interrupt you, we'll come to that when we come back from the break.
Okay.
But for the moment, fake news, how big a concern is that? You came into this studio once, not too long ago, and said this was a clear and present danger. In the very, very recent times, the National Assembly siege, as we are now calling it, that I was talking about, on social media, there were extraneous pictures not related to the event that were put on there by people as one example of how, if you are not fully on ground, information-wise, you're going to be misled. So my question is, has the situation abated since you last came and spoke about this and sought broadcast organizations to cooperate with you on this? Has it gotten better?
Mr. Polity, I think the greatest danger to peace and security and even the corporate existence of Nigeria still remains fake news. And it's not getting better. So in fact, it's getting worse. You see, technology, which was supposed to aid, better understanding, development, I think it's now being used to sow the seed of, distrust, to disinform, and to generally pitch one group against the other. In particular today, images are being tampered with, that they will now bring pictures from foreign lands, from yesteryears, juxtapose them with what's supposed to be happening. And unfortunately, it's not just Nigeria. But election year, I think two things we'll have to watch out: fake news and cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism, to me, is even much more dangerous than the real physical terrorism that would be combating.
Okay, I'm going to go on a break that I spoke about and come back and see what you mean by cyber terrorism. We've heard about this, but usually only in foreign lands. To now know that it has come to our shores, We'll know about that as soon as we come back. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. And we'll open the calls, the phones as well. Welcome back, second half of our program, and we've touched quite a number of places with the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, but in going away to break, he threw in a new one for us locally, cyber terrorism. I'd like to address that now, find out about that, and as I said, what his assessment is of the performance of his government vis-a-vis the promises they made. But let's start with cyber terrorism. That's a new one on me, Alaji.
You see, the only reason why fake news has assumed the proportion it has assumed today is because the opposition have found out that they cannot fault this administration on performance.
I love this linkage. There's the linkage between what you're talking about now and where I'm going.
Absolutely. And that is why you can see that in the last 6 months, I've not seen the opposition engage the government on issue of performance, either infrastructure, the economy, agriculture, the fight against insecurity, but rather they have been using fake news to amplify and distort images and distort situations in various parts of the country. I have not had PDP challenge the APC on the issue of infrastructure, because the records are there. Is it power? Are we talking about roads? Power, for instance, and this bears repeating. By the time we came in, power had been privatized. Generation had been privatized. Distribution had been privatized. Only the transmission remained in the hands of government. And by the time we came in, all generating companies combined were only producing 2,690 megawatts of power. Today, they are generating 7,000 megawatts of power. This is not come by accident. It was because the federal government, this administration, came in, intervened, and asked why they were underproducing. And they say it is because when they produce power, the distribution companies could not pay. So we put together a 701 billion payment assurance scheme to guarantee that if you produce power, we will pay while you sort out your problems with the distribution companies. And that is why generation went from 2,690 to 7,000 today.
But as you've indicated, Minister, distribution is key. I read recently that the distribution companies are saying, look, you know what, we want to just give it back.
You see, the truth of the matter is,
we can't do it again.
Like we say again, distribution was privatized before we came. And I think people who had neither the means, the competence, nor the track record were given this, distribution, assignment, portfolio. And today, they cannot cope. They're now asking, if you can give back our money, we would leave distribution. But we have also, as a government, we have been assisting them by injecting funds into distribution to improve distribution. We have what we call the distribution expansion program to assist them. But what Nigerians should understand is that distribution is not in the hands of the federal government. It is in the hands of private companies. And we're doing everything to assist them. As a matter of fact, we've assisted them so far that distribution has gone up from an abysmal about 4,000 today to almost 5,000 megawatts. So in the area of power, even though it is largely privatized, we've also intervened to ensure that Nigerians have stable and regular supply. What we promised since we came was incremental supply. There will be incremental improvement because generation and distribution are completely out of the hands of the federal government.
Okay, I'm gonna have to leave it there because I want to touch on. It's not as if there's not more to say, but I want to leave it there because I want to touch on the matter of security, and in particular the killings by herdsmen. That problem.
Again, you see, I think the BBC came out with its findings about a month ago that fake news has been fueling the issue of killings in Benue State. And that, as a matter of fact, is really more of fake news than reality. But having said that, it is important to say that, yes, herdsmen-farmers clash predated the existence of Nigeria as a country. The first recorded herdsmen-farmers clashes was actually in 1947, 13 full years before Nigeria became independent. And it's normally a seasonal thing. But in the last couple of years, there has been a kind of aggravation, fueled largely by climate change, demography, the fact that some opposition people who are being probed today for looting have also armed militias, sheer criminality, cattle rustling. But the good news is that the government has come in. In Benue State alone, the government has established 16 new units of police mobile force. Under the office of the Chief of Defense Staff, there's now a combined force of the police, the National Civil Defense Corps, the military, the Air Force. The Air Force also has created what is called a quick response wing. But the truth of the matter is that the killings have gone down.
Okay, because I was going to ask if that is indeed what you have seen, but as you said, fake news is...
The killings have gone down.
Okay, I don't want to keep David longer. David called in from Victoria Island.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. David.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Ayori.
Thank you very much for calling in. Please go ahead. You got a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, please, I just have a question for Mr. Mohammed, Lai Mohammed. Yeah, he made mention of Saraki. He said morally that it will be good for Saraki to leave office. It will be good for Saraki to leave office morally. But I want to bring him back. I want to bring him back to the issue of the similar case of Tambua. When Tambua defected, he still remained the Speaker of the House, and I think the opposition party then, the ruling party then, did not object to it. So I'm now asking, is there any difference in this scenario?
Thank you very much, Mr. David. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Succinct.
Well, I'm sure also at the time that Tambua defected, I'm sure the PDP also said that morally he had to resign. And that's why I said, yes, I believe that morally he has to resign, but that constitutionally the law is clear, which is that you must have 2/3 majority of the members sitting to remove him.
Okay, and you said you didn't want to comment on it. It's not your...
And I said that
the executive, but because I had asked,
but
was why you were going.
Exactly.
You were going there. So yes, you were saying before that call came in, because calls, when you come in, it floods us. That there have been there has been appreciable progress, according to you, and you would know because you have all the data.
Right.
But for fake,
Yes.
this whole scourge of
Yes.
fake news.
Yes. You see, but the truth of the matter is that more people have returned, have left the IDP camps in Benue State to their communities. There have been more apprehension of people responsible for the killings. Mm-hmm. Many of them are facing prosecution today. The military, the security have regained the space. And like before, when we had killings virtually every day, I don't think there's been any killings at all in the last couple of weeks. At least, okay, I want to be very, I don't want to be taken, at least all through last week. We never had any killings. But the truth of the matter is that the security is completely in control today, and they have dominated the space. But what we have is that this is not being reported by the media. Again,
why would that be?
Of course, it's very sad. Again, the media should refrain from putting an ethnic or religious coloration to the killings in all these parts of the country.
Okay.
Because there's nothing ethnic.
So when the media talks about Fulani headsmen,
you see, when killings happen in say Zamfara State, the cattle rustlers there are Muslim Fulanis, and the victims are Muslim Fulanis. When the media will report it, they will say bandits. But when it happens in Benue State, they will say herdsmen.
Okay.
But for us, criminals are criminals.
They'll
be treated as such.
Permit me to interrupt you because Yakub has been waiting for a while. Good morning, Yakub.
Yeah, good morning, Jerry.
Thank you for calling in.
And then good morning to Honorable Minister. We really thank you that you still call because you are a friend of the house. But having said that, about being removing Saraki or not removing Saraki, we that we love the Mr. President. We know why the government is not moving the way we expected. And then I think to remove Saraki now, I may be wrong, I may be right. This is my own personal opinion. I think it's very, very difficult because of one thing. Because of the law. The law of land tells us that they need to call majority of the House to remove him. But for me, if I happen to be the member of the House, I will try to challenge same law in the court. If a simple majority can elect someone, that's my own personal opinion. I think they should challenge that very particular section. That simple majority can be able to remove you. If you can be elected by simple majority, the simple majority needs to be removed you. That very particular section should be challenged in the court of law.
Okay.
About the side of the National Assembly, I think a lot needs to say about that because the same government said the Senate President will confirm the National Assembly. I don't know how come the presidency will not be the one that sends the DFS to that place. I don't think it is possible. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Yakub. Since the minister has addressed that, we'll just leave that as your comment.
And like I said, it is the business of the House to remove him.
Exactly.
I only spoke about, I said I believe morally. If a man, you can't take the benefit of the situation and refuse his burden. If you were elected at the time your house has your party has the majority, I think the honorable thing morally is for you to resign and test your strength now. And so that you come back again. But I say again, let the National Assembly decide whether they want to remove him or not. It's not part of it's not for the executive to decide.
You spoke about the killings, the ongoing killings, and how it had come down, appreciably, but that it wasn't being correctly reported owing to the whole fake news thing. Yeah, that to one side. I wish we had 2 hours, we don't. But I imagine the whole Boko Haram security issue as well. Is that also, are we making gains there?
You see,
because it's related.
Again, it bears repeating that we have...
I beg your pardon, Alaji. Mrs. Adeyemi has called in.
Hello.
And Mrs. Adeyemi, we're making a concession.
Hello.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, please go ahead, sir. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello. Please, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, I would like to ask the minister a question.
We're waiting.
The question is, we are talking of security in the nation now, and we are focusing on headmen. We are focusing on terrorists. We have international terrorists that trouble us day in, day out. We have kidnappers. You meet them in buses. You meet them along the road. When Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, when you fly that road and you enter a wrong bus, you are gone for life. What is the government doing about, especially all these our routes, so that they will be made safe for us? They kidnap, they kill, and they send pictures, these gory pictures to us on social media. It's scary. It makes us...
Thank you, Mrs. Adeyemi. Thank you, Mrs. Adeyemi.
Mr. Adeyemi, thank you very much. I think there are various, operations going on in various parts of the country to really, address the issue of kidnapping. And I think only recently in Lagos State Command made some massive arrests and some, incursions into the hierarchy of the kidnappers. I want to assure you that this government will not rest until and when every part of this country is safe. However, as to the gory pictures, please, it's part of the fake news we are speaking about. There was a day when there was this, picture that was everywhere, that there were some massive killings along Benin or a road. Only to find out that nothing like that happened. Please, it's part of our fight against fake news. If you see such gory pictures, please try and look at the source. Is it credible? And please don't share unless you are sure it is true. Okay,
because what you're saying is that, it's not as if the domestic crime is not an issue, but that it is being, the whole situation might have been hijacked by those, fake news and that
absolutely.
Kind of thing. So because people know that there is crime, it's not where we want it to be.
There's no society that is crime-free.
Indeed.
But the important is that what is the government doing about? And I think the police, the military, jointly are doing everything possible to contain the situation.
Managing time, sort of, I want to go on to another issue. The most important problem to Mr. President when it was coming on was the issue of corruption. Yes. Are you satisfied that we indeed have made gains in that direction? If we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. I think I'm paraphrasing Mr. President.
I think evidence that we've made gains in the fight against corruption, the fact that today the discussion is still very much on, and corruption has actually gone under the table. Before it used to, stare us right in the face. And I think the recent convictions, we must thank the judiciary, of high-profile corruption, suspects, have also given a lot of credence to the fight against corruption. The fight continues, and part of the reason why fake news is on the increase, that these looters have this morbid fear that the re-election of Mr. President, and which will surely come by the grace of God, will quicken their conviction in the courts of law. But they are looking for a situation whereby the president will not come back and then they will scuttle the fight against corruption. So most of this fake news is actually because they are afraid that Mr. President will come back to continue with the fight against corruption. And I can assure them, Mr. President will come back by the grace of God, and the fight on corruption will also be invigorated.
Okay, then. Let me thank Yemi calling in from Lekki for holding on. We're so sorry about that. Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you.
And good morning to the Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Yemi?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Please, good morning, Mr. Yori.
Yes, please go ahead.
And good morning, the Honorable Minister.
Good morning, sir.
I want to dwell on the issue of parapolitics.
Kwara
I want to dwell on the issue of parapolitics.
Okay, well, the word dwell, I don't know that we have the time to dwell, but mention it.
I wanted to remind the Honorable Minister of what has been playing out in the issue of politics in Kwara. Though politics is a game of number. Politics is a game of number, but you know how is our enemy in Kwara used to go their way in robbing people politically. I want to ask what are the Honorable Minister doing with other political leaders in Kwara in ABC to make sure these people did not rob us once more again. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemi, and thank you for holding on all that while.
Thank you very much. I want to assure you that all the leaders in Kwara State today are agreed on one thing, that Dr. Bukola Saraki's political fortune, political, his political empire must be humiliated at the next election. And that is why my appeal to them is that it should not be about who becomes governor or who becomes a senator or a House of Rep member, but rather that we collectively install a government of our own and defeat Dr. Bukola Saraki. And I'm sure Yemi, by the grace of God, will be around to celebrate with us when this happens in 2019.
Okay. Idris in Agege, good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning, the Honorable Minister.
Good morning.
Yeah, the Honorable Minister, in the issue of corruption, right?
Yes, please.
We the masses, we are looking at you people. How many of those people you prosecute? You haven't prosecuted anybody. And on the issue of killing here, killing there tomorrow, you understand? These corrupt people, I think they are the main people that are causing all this wahala, all these problems that we're facing in Nigeria. You understand? Yeah, for real.
So what is your question? Idris, sorry, you touched about three different things there. What's your question for the minister?
Sorry?
What is your question for the minister?
My question is, if Buhari came back, how sure is he that he will continue to fight this corruption?
Thank you.
I think President Buhari has made it clear that fighting corruption for him is a lifelong project. Mr. Buhari will even be more invigorated in fighting corruption when he returns, because he's a man that has zero tolerance for corruption. And of course, we can see where corruption has led us. And I'm glad, Idris, that you also mentioned that a lot of the killings here, a lot of them has been actually foiled by looters who are afraid that a return of President Buhari will lead to their own Waterloo. But I think it's just a matter of time. By the grace of God, Nigerians will vote Mr. President back, and will continue with the war against corruption.
And talking about the return of Mr. President in more immediate terms, he's expected very shortly. He's on vacation, right?
Yes.
Is it vacation that he would now use the opportunity to check himself up, do your routine medical checkup, or is it, a sick leave vacation?
Mr. Folari, every human being who works very hard, like Mr. President, is entitled to a vacation. What Mr. President does with his vacation is his business. Thank you very much.
Indeed, I want to thank you very much, Lai Mohammed, Honorable Minister of Information and Culture. Thank you very much, as always, Alhaji Lai, for coming on the program.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, so that's our program. Please join us on Monday. That's the next edition. We don't do weekends. And God willing, I'll be here. Bye-bye for now. Have a great weekend.